Welcome to Red-tastic. Story 1. I, 29 female, have always been the good daughter in my family and as such, the neglected daughter as well. Growing up, my sister, 26 female, struggled with a learning disability, chronic asthma, and was generally an underachiever compared to me. So my parents, understandably, were concerned about her more and gave her a lot of attention and support. Unfortunately, this often meant my achievements were overlooked and my sisters were overly highlighted. I was a straight A student and did everything right, but it always felt like my accomplishments were overshadowed by my sister's relatively smaller achievements. My parents at one point admitted that they were more proud of her than me because I was always meant to achieve great things. But she achieved everything through struggle. This whole dynamic caused my sister to be spoiled and develop an attitude. Fast forward to now, both my sister and I were planning weddings set just a month apart, scheduled for fall 2023. I've always suspected that my sister rushed her boyfriend into proposing because she didn't want to be outdone by me. But that's a story for another day. Our parents came up with the suggestion that I contribute to my sister's wedding expenses because otherwise finances will be tight for her. I wasn't too thrilled because this was another case of them throwing me to wolves to save her, but in the end I agreed to pay for her dress and catering. Because I knew I would never hear the end of it if I didn't. So we were both amidst full-blown wedding planning. That was until yesterday, when my parents asked me to come over for what I thought was a simple family gathering. When I arrived, I found my sister, my fiance, and our parents waiting for me. I realized this was some kind of intervention and I had been blindsided. My sister tearfully announced that she's pregnant by my fiance. She said that she and my fiance are getting married instead of her original boyfriend. Then said that it's best to get married sooner than later because there was the matter of her baby bump showing, so they decided they would simply take over my wedding and give her wedding to me. I'm sure in her twisted way of justifying things, she thought she was being generous by offering me her original wedding, as if that was some kind of consolation prize for getting knocked up by my fiancé. Like who the fuck am I supposed to marry at her wedding? Her boyfriend? For a moment I just stared at them. I thought it was some twisted joke. My fiancé, who was sitting next to her, didn't look me in the eye once. When it finally hit me that this wasn't a joke, but my new reality, I almost had a panic attack. I wanted my parents to speak up for me and tell my sister off, but they just looked uncomfortable, like they were waiting for this whole thing to blow over. That hurt almost as much as sister's betrayal itself. Without another word, I turned and walked out of the room. My parents ran after me saying they'd call me, and that this was bigger than me, so I needed to set aside my prejudices and be there for my sister. Saying things like, family is family, and think of your future niece or nephew. I told them there is no way I could support their wedding after what they did to me. When I was driving off, my mom shouted that since I had already agreed to pay for my sister's wedding dress and catering, I should still honor that promise despite the circumstances. I have been a wreck since then. I am heartbroken and feel utterly betrayed by my sister, my ex-fiancé, and even my parents for their lack of support. They all acted like I should just accept this and move on, but I can't. I've been crying non-stop and don't know what to do next. I'm devastated and I want to unalive myself. Please help me. Update. I want to thank you for all the support and advice on my last post. The past week has been the roughest, but I'm still here, aren't I? I took some time off from work to collect myself. I also cancelled the wedding venue since it was booked under my name. I also contacted all the vendors I had booked, decorations, DJ, etc., and cancelled everything. As for the catering that had been booked by my ex-fiancé, so I couldn't cancel that. I didn't let my ex or sister know that I cancelled anything. I've blocked my parents, my ex, and my sister on all platforms. They kept calling and texting and I went into panic mode at every sound my phone made. I needed space and time to heal without them constantly trying to guilt-trip me into supporting their new plans. But yesterday, my sister showed up at my workplace. I didn't want to cause a scene at my job, so I agreed to talk to her briefly. I expected her to be at least a bit remorseful, but she wasn't. In fact, she was glowing. She said she wanted me to transfer the venue booking to her or my ex's name, like I was going to do it just like that. I told her no and that everything had been cancelled. She got upset and started raising her voice, saying stuff like I was being a jealous cow and ruining her special day because I didn't get the man. I told her she did me a favor by taking that cheater off my hands. She started shouting after that, and security ended up having to escort her out because she wouldn't calm down. That's where things stand now. I'm still shaken and I'm not sure what to expect next. I know this is not the end and it scares me. Update 2. This keeps getting interesting. Well, yesterday, I found my aunt at my door. Apparently, my parents sent her over to play mediator because I was being a stubborn little shit, my father had said. She sat me down and said that my parents wanted me to book another nice venue as a peace offering for my sister's wedding. The original venue, which I had booked and later cancelled, was apparently rebooked by someone else. So it's no longer available. My sister is insisting on having a similar vibe venue, but they can't afford it on their own, especially with the expenses of the baby on the way, so they're expecting me to foot the bill. My aunt said if I refuse, I won't be invited to the wedding, and my parents have threatened to cut me off entirely. She tried to make it sound like this was a way for me to make peace with the family and move forward. It was emotional blackmail. I told my aunt it would be a cold day in hell if I paid anything for their abyssal wedding and that I didn't want to be a part of their plans. She wasn't happy with my response but eventually left, saying she hoped I would reconsider because there is a baby involved after all. I could care less about the wedding. I could care even less about their kid. If they think that kind of emotional manipulation is going to work on me, they can forget it. The audacity of them is just beyond belief. Anyway, thanks for letting me vent. I'm just really frustrated. Final update. So, my sister and my ex-fiance ended up getting married in my parents' backyard. Haha. They couldn't find a venue they could afford after I cancelled the original one. It seems they had to settle for something a lot less glamorous than what they had envisioned. Honestly, it feels like a fitting beginning to their saga. I received a letter from my parents a few days after my aunt's visit. They basically said they were ashamed of me for not being the bigger person and helping my sister during the time she needed her big sister the most. They also made it clear that I wasn't invited to the wedding or any future family event till further notice. As if I would ever want to be in the same room as all of them ever again. Meanwhile, I wanted to check up on a suspicion I've had for some time, so I reached out to my ex's previous girlfriend, before me, and discovered that I was the other woman when my ex and I first started dating. Apparently, he was still with her when he began seeing me. So it turns out he started out our relationship by cheating on his previous partner. He's an effing serial cheater, which honestly makes me feel a bit better. My sister and my ex deserve each other so much, and I hope they enjoy their happily ever after, filled with trust issues and drama. On a brighter note, I've been focusing on myself and rebuilding my life. I recently got a promotion at work, which has been a great boost both financially and emotionally. Honestly, I owe this sub a lot. You guys were simply awesome. Thanks for being my support system so far. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for threatening to take my ex to court over leaving our daughter in my home alone? My ex has primary custody of our daughter and I get her every other weekend. Due to the nature of my job, my hours can be unpredictable and sometimes I need to stay later than I think I will. This happens usually once or twice a month. This caused problems when my ex would bring my daughter to my house and I wouldn't be home from work yet. We switched to me picking my daughter up and dropping her off at my ex's house instead, so they wouldn't wait at mine. When I last had my daughter 2 weeks ago, my work ended up running several hours over. And I didn't get her until 3 p.m. instead of 9 a.m. when I was scheduled. I notified my ex of this that morning and received a snarky and rude response. But I tried to be the bigger person and just ignored it. I think this may have fanned the flames a bit for the blow-up this past weekend. My work ran over again on Saturday morning, so I texted my ex that I would be there at 11 instead of 9. I had to turn my phone off for a meeting, but my ex texted back, "That doesn't work for me, be here by 10. Then she texted an hour later, "Leaving daughter at your house. I don't have time to wait for you today, and there are contractors at my house." I obviously didn't answer, but I saw the message when I left work at 10:30. I called my ex and said, "What the F?" And my ex told me that she left my daughter alone in my house, using the spare key I gave her for emergencies. On top of it, she left her there to go get her hair done. She didn't have anything important planned. It wasn't like she had to work or had an emergency. She just put something stupid and frivolous over our daughter. My ex told me it was fine because she checked the house before leaving my daughter there, meaning she went through my house. What the F? Our daughter has a cell phone and she leaves her home alone in her own house. I said that is not okay. She can leave our daughter in her house if that's the kind of parent she wants to be, but I don't want my daughter alone in my house, especially without my knowledge. My ex told me I put her in a tight spot. It's my fault that she did this. And it's no big deal because she would have gone and gotten my daughter from my house if I wasn't home when she was done with her hair appointment. I got so mad. I told her straight up I would take her to court for custody of endangering my daughter, and I was going to make sure my daughter never saw her again. She hung up on me and told me to only contact her over text, and has ignored my calls since. I spoke to my parents about it later, and my father feels I was in the right because my ex was putting her hairdo over my daughter. But my mother thinks I overreacted and is actually very upset with me. Am I the a-hole, or is my ex the a-hole for going through my house, leaving my kid there unattended, and acting like it was no big deal just so she could get her hair done? Edit, my daughter is middle school age. The contractors were at her house, which was her excuse for not leaving her there. My ex has known this is how it is for as long as we've known each other. It is how it is if she wants me to have a roof over my head and to keep paying child support. You're definitely the a-hole here. Your daughter is old enough to be left alone, especially if she has a cell phone and can reach out if needed. It sounds like your ex had no other option since you were late and there were contractors at her house. Getting her hair done might seem frivolous to you, but is her time and her decision on how to use it. Exactly. It's not your ex's job to sit around waiting indefinitely because your work ran late. You should have made arrangements to ensure you could be there on time to pick up your daughter. If you can't manage that, it's on you to communicate and make alternative arrangements in advance. Expecting your ex to just drop everything and work around your unpredictable schedule is unreasonable. It's your responsibility to be there for your scheduled time. And if you can't, then you should have been clearer about the situation. Your ex isn't putting your daughter in danger by leaving her alone for a little while. And threatening legal action over this is just ridiculous.